The moment we've been waiting for has arrived. We may rise on our feet as we welcome Mr. President, Advocate DOMA GIDEON BOKO, the President of the Republic of Botswana. As I said, as he takes his seat, we sing our national anthem. Welcome, Mr. President. As we are still standing, we are going to take our national anthem, after which it will be prayer. Chabaya Botswana Kakutano lekari sana ewopakanze moro sohambana emambasadi emantafana ekopanele kudirela Emambasadi emantafana ekopanele kudirela efatsela Pula. We may take our seats. You are welcome, Mr. President. We are honored to have you as our guest of honor. We appreciate your presence. Like I said, our national anthem is in two versions, Tswana and English. The second line says, "Give to us from God's strong hand." Give to us from God's strong hand. This song is both historical, contemporary, and futuristic. I use the line, "Give to us from God's strong hand," to invite the pastor for our prayer, Pastor Peter Mushudi. The song acknowledges that Botswana is where she is because of the help of God. Let's give the pastor a hand as he comes.
Directors of proceedings or ceremonies, His Excellency, the President of this beautiful republic, Advocate DOMA GIDEON BOKO, Chief Justice Rahau Palelwe Ketlogetswe, ministers here present and their deputies, permanent secretaries here present and deputy permanent secretaries, members from outside this country. I greet you this morning in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. I have left others because the time I've given is 2 minutes, I think. And if we were to do the whole protocol, I would have squandered more than that time. This morning as we pray, can we refer to the book of Psalms, Psalm 20, verse 7. It says, "Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God." Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we gather this morning in this place. You have brought other Africans. You have brought visitors from beyond our borders. And we want to thank you that you have brought them in safety. We thank you this morning that you even protected them overnight. And we commit ourselves to your care and to your protection, even this morning as we start this conference. We dedicate each and every one here to your care and to your protection. Lead us, guide us, and Lord, bring the best out of all of us. We trust in you. We don't trust in ourselves. And Father, we just want to dedicate this meeting in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Peter Mushodi, for that prayer, that we don't trust in horses or chariots, we trust in the name of the Lord. Like I said, our national anthem recognizes the important role that God has played in the establishment of this nation. We are gathered here on the occasion of the high-level Africa Civil Society Conference. Like I said, this conference is for non-profit organization. If you know a bit of our history, a long time ago, we were a protectorate of the British, and they sent missionaries here from the London Missionary Society, which is an NPO or non-profit organization. And they helped us a lot with guns to defend ourselves against those who wanted to take over our nation. That is why our national anthem recognizes the role of God. So national profit organizations play a very important role in every society. They are very important. They have to do good works. So that's why we are gathered here, Mr. President, to learn from each other, capacitate each other on the importance of civil society. At this time, I want to introduce the District Commissioner of Gaborone, Ms. Bokwana Dikhope, to come and introduce the guests who are here, so that we know who is here. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Program Director, the President of the Republic of Botswana, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. My name is Bokwana Dikhope, District Commissioner of Gaborone District, and I'm here to introduce dignitaries here present. Program Director, it is my honor and privilege to introduce Mr. President, Advocate GIDEON BOKO, the President of the Republic of Botswana. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, in our midst, we have His Lordship, the Honorable Justice Haola Pelwi Kitlogetswe, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Botswana. We also have Honorable General Major Piers Mopari, Minister of Labor and Home Affairs, our host. And in our midst, we also have Honorable Nono Kafela Mokoka, Minister of Child Welfare and Basic Education. Thank you, ma'am. And we also have Honorable Son Chaile, the Acting Minister of Finance. Thank you, sir. And we also have Honorable Baratiwa Mathote, the Acting Minister of Trade and Entrepreneurship. And in our midst, we also have Honorable Justine Nyatanga, Assistant Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Honorable members of Parliament here present, we would also like to acknowledge your presence. And in our midst, we also have Ms. Mercedes Obukole, the Deputy Permanent Secretary to the President. And we also have Commissioner Diana Marate, Commissioner General, Botswana Police Service. And we also have Deputy Commander, Major General Mulefisi Kano, Botswana Defense Force. And we also have Dr. Bupilu Khale Soko, Director General, Financial Intelligence Agency. Ladies and gentlemen, in our midst, we also have Mr. Jimmy Upilu, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Home Affairs. And we also want to acknowledge and appreciate the presence of captains of industry and other accounting officers here present. We would also want to recognize the presence of all presidential advisors here present. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to appreciate the presence of senior government officials, captains of the industry, members of the Fourth Estate, members of the art industry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we acknowledge your presence. Thank you so much. Thank you, Program Director.
Good morning. Good morning once again. Kindly allow me to stand on the protocol that the District Commissioner has laid before us. Indeed, I believe that from those remarks, we could hear that the government of Botswana is here, meaning that the government does take AML CFT issues very seriously, and we are committed to ensuring that Botswana remains compliant and fulfills all the required standards. That is why today we have the government in our midst, government of the people, for the people. Let us once again give the dignitaries a round of applause for their presence this morning. And let us not forget what we learned this morning. Just look at the person next to you and say, Dumela, Autsurile. Because BOKO is very much entrenched within our culture as Botswana. Dumela, Autsurile. Right, moving right along. To officially welcome us and set the tone of our deliberations, I have the distinct honor of welcoming the next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, within the AML CFT space, this next speaker has championed reforms under the Societies Amendment Bill, which really did help us to ensure that our NPOs are compliant to a certain extent. Furthermore, he has lent firm support to the NPO's Regulators Connect initiative, an endeavor that exemplifies constructive dialogue between the state and society, which really is the essence of today's conference. Ladies and gentlemen, his leadership speaks to the spirit of this conference. Allow me to welcome on stage the Honorable Minister, retired Major General Pius Mokwari. He is the Minister of Labor and Home Affairs. Honorable Minister, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all start by recognizing the President of the Republic of Botswana, Advocate DOMA GIDEON BOKO. Also recognize His Lordship, the Chief Justice of Botswana, Reke Togetwe. Also recognize all my colleagues, ministers here present today here. I would like to save time, not to mention you, but I recognize in a very special way. Let me also recognize the chiefs of security agencies here present. I can see them here. Also, excuse me for not naming you individually due to time pressure. Let me recognize all the permanent secretaries here present also. And let me recognize in a very big special way the Civic Africa Hub Director and lead organizer of the conference, Reo Njela. I would also like to recognize the heads of regional economic community blocks for anti-money laundering and counterintelligence, counter-terrorism financing in Africa. Let me also recognize all development partners around, financial intelligence units from across the world here present, civil societies representatives here present, the banking services centers, research institute and the academia, and lastly, the members of the Fourth Estate. I would like again to say a very, very big good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. It is very, very important that we are meeting here today to discuss a very, very worrying and important subject, which is money laundering and terrorism financing. One will ask, why is the topic important today? It is important today because we are living in a very dynamic world. And I would always like to characterize today's moment, the world which we are living in three ways. That it is ambiguous. Being ambiguous, it means now that you cannot just lay your palm to say, I can predict this is what is going to happen. It is a confused world. It is confused because a lot of things are happening which we cannot, all of us, explain. It is violent. We can look at the stage of violence all over across the world. And amongst all these three important pillars are the key stakeholders who are here today in this room. That is the non-profit making organizations and the civil society. There is no any other place which you could have been rather than this place today where you are, in order to share, in order to collaborate, in order to network, in order to build the new ways of dealing with money laundering and terrorism financing. That is why you are here today, all across Africa. 54 countries, 200 delegates, to share their experiences, to share their knowledge, to chart the way how we in Africa can deal with this big animal in the room. That is important, and we should, all of us, see this as the most important day and the most important time of our lives. These challenges, they do not require any other magic, but they require strategic thinking. They require a strategic approach. They require accountability. Each one of us in this room should be able to account to each and every money which comes into their country, which you see money moving around here. The bad side of money laundering, the bad side of terrorism are human sufferings, drugs, which you see ravaging our children all over Africa. And Botswana is going towards that route. And that is why it is important, that is why we felt very important that we should be holding this conference here today so that we can, all of us, share our experiences. We can all of us network so that these problems, they do not have boundaries. No, they go across each one of us in all our countries. The man which is laundered here in Botswana will land in one of your countries, and it will disadvantage or destroy your country wherever you are. You cannot say it is not happening in my country, it is happening in Botswana. No, it is coming to you. It might be happening right under your nose. So that is why it is important today. The Africa in which our economies will strive sustainably, the continental free trade Africa, the Africa we want, the Africa of open, safe and secure movement will only be ideal if it's free from money laundering and terrorism financing, amongst other things. Master of Ceremonies, in the coming 2 days, this conference is here. We'll hear from the various speakers, experts, researchers, and strategists on efforts made to safeguard the non-profit making organizations from the scourge of money laundering, as well as regulating standards for enforcement and compliance. It is therefore necessary that we meet in a forum such as this one to plan together, to share experiences, and to empower each other and create awareness among our people to guard against the debilitating effects of money laundering among our civil societies, who may very often be used without their knowledge. Mr. President, the High-Level Africa Civil Society Conference is an annual flagship event originated by the Civic Advisory Hub and Spaces for Change that brings together diverse stakeholders from non-profit making organizations, civil society organizations, rights-based organizations, governments, intergovernment actions, regional economic communities, multilateral organizations, financial intelligence units, banking institutions, research hubs, academia and the media, with the aim of shaping inclusive, risk and rights-based financial integrity frameworks across Africa. The theme of this year's conference is placing civic space at the heart of combating money laundering, countering terrorism and its financing in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, this theme places the civic society and its diverse constituents at the center of possible infiltration by all forms of money laundering activities and terrorism financing tactics in Africa. The non-profit organizations, NPOs, are particularly highly exposed and more vulnerable, hence this conference dedicated to them. This conference brings together more than 120 stakeholders, including representatives from various global national non-profit making organizations, United Nations Office of Counterterrorism, African Union, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, African Development Bank, regional economic communities, FATF-style, regional bodies, including ASAMLAC, and experts from various sectors with specialized knowledge on combating financing of terrorism and illicit financial flows. The goal of this conference is to enhance the role of civil society in anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism frameworks, and to encourage collective reform throughout Africa, focusing on the safeguarding of civic space and advocating for African-led, locally owned solutions through inclusive dialogue. Countries around the world aspire to be at the highest ranking of the best practices in business transactions, financial flows that are not contaminated by dirty transactions perpetuated by money launderers. Botswana as a country aspires the same. Since the establishment of FATA framework and protocols through various recommendations, we have followed the world order by putting in place all necessary measures and guidance to help us avoid grey listing phenomena. Director of Ceremonies, ISMAC has twice assessed Botswana for its compliance with FATA standards. We have made significant progress on recommendation 8 concerning regulation and protection of non-profit making organizations. Moving from non-compliant since 2009 by the leadership of Advocate DOMA BOKO. We moved from the gray area, which we were from 2009 until we were assessed in August 2025. When the UDC came to government, they had to speed up all the necessary legislation, all the necessary protocols, which were enabled us to move from the gray listing. So we should give Botswana a very big round of applause. Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. This improvement is not just technical. It reflects a shift in philosophy from suspicion to partnership, from regulation that restricts to regulation that empowers. Through our collaboration with relevant stakeholders such as the Companies and Intellectual Property Authority and the Master of the High Court, we have established a Aribue platform, a mechanism for dialogue, transparency, and joint problem solving between government and the civil society. This is what good governance looks like in action. It is inclusive, accountable, and participatory. Ladies and gentlemen, in response to capacitation needs of Botswana in the FATF requirements, the National Coordinating Office in the Ministry of Finance has partnered with the University of Botswana to establish the Institute for Combating Illicit Financial Flows. We believe this collective and collaborative initiative will yield country results in the fight against money laundering with the non-profit making organization. Mr. President, this conference could not have come at an opportune time for Botswana as we prepare for our third round of mutual evaluation scheduled for 2027. We are working tirelessly to strengthen our systems, considering that Recommendation 8 have been revised. The conference will acquire us as an opportune time to familiarize ourselves with the revised standards to ultimately achieve compliant rating for FATF recommendation number 8. And I can assure you today that we will come with flying colors. Master of Ceremonies, once again, let me welcome you and assure you of Botswana's support and commitment to uplifting the regulatory standards and the protocols in fighting money laundering and terrorism financing using the non-profit organizations. With those few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, let me just welcome you once again to this beautiful country, especially the city of Gaborone, and say to you, make use of what you see, share the knowledge which you receive from your comrades, and take it home to go and apply it. We will all benefit as Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, Honorable Minister. Indeed, we can only get the Africa that we want if we combat money laundering and counter the financing of terrorism. And this conference just goes to show our commitment as a nation to ensuring that indeed this is done. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me at this moment to recognize the presence of some dignitaries. We have the Regional Director of SAMLAG, Ms. Kelebogile Moremi. You may rise. Ms. Maremi is a Botswana making waves in the international space. Ma'am, we give you your flowers. We also have in our presence today the Director of Civic Society Hub, Mr. Yona Wanjala. CAH is the main sponsor for the event. We recognize you and we appreciate your contribution to making this conference possible today. Furthermore, we just wish to recognize the presence of experts of financial services flows, as well as heads of parastatals present here today. We honor you and we appreciate your presence this morning. Let us give them a round of applause. And so, as we reflect on the minister's words, we are compelled to ask ourselves three major questions, if I may. The first question, what common purpose brings together government, regulators, and civil society in the conversation of integrity and inclusion? The second question, how can platforms like this very conference move us beyond dialogue, move us beyond to coordinated action across our nations and sectors? And finally, what do we as policymakers, civil society present here today, as citizens, what do we need to realign so that our systems truly serve the public good? And so to frame these questions and outline conference objectives, help me welcome on stage a man whose leadership continues to bridge civic voice and regulatory vision. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the Executive Director of the main sponsor, Civic Advisory Hub, Mr. Yona Wanjala. Sir, you are welcome to the podium.
Dumela. Is it on? Dumela once again. I bring you greetings from the Pearl of Africa, Uganda, and we greet Habari. Habari zenyu, you should say Muzuri. Habari zenyu. Mr. President, in our presence, honorable ministers present, forgive my exchange of the protocol, the Chief Justice present here. Allow me not commit protocol hiccups. Let me ride on the already existing protocols. Mr. President, sir, an advocate, a friend of the sector, a son of Africa, we are highly honored by your presence on such a key event that means a lot to the sector within Africa and beyond, under the topic and the theme, placing civic space at the heart of fighting money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. Mr. President, sir, this theme is anchored on the fact that Africa is grappling with challenges of money laundering, with challenges of terrorism financing. Statistics reveal that on an annual basis, we lose close to 88.6 billion. This money, if at all it is plowed back It would mean a lot to our society. It would make us attain our goals 2030 and 2063. But with the deficits in governance, with the deficits in all elements that would nurture and lead to the plowing back of these monies into our economies, we seem to be the poorest country again, and we seem to be beggars on the planet Earth, yet God gifted us. Mr. President, sir, while the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing architecture has very good intention, very good philosophy of fighting these vices on the continent, across Africa, in a number of jurisdictions, this MLCFT regime has been weaponized to disrupt the operation of civil society sector. What do we see at the heart of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing? We see the erosion of human rights and good governance. We see democracy retreating. We see disruption of operation of free voices that would offer oversight and accountability. Mr. President, distinguished guests, we see fellow activists put out of action, and we see nations collapsing. This informs that maybe we need to rethink the strategy and put civic space at the heart of countering the financing of terrorism and money laundering. And we are happy to say that as this African Civil Society Initiative, we are doing policy research, we are bridging the knowledge gap, and we are advocating for inclusive engagement when it comes to this agenda. Mr. President, this particular conference is informed by our first conference that took place in Uganda that brought again all actors within the sub-Saharan Africa. We had a communique that rendered certain aspects, and we are proud to say that we rose up to the occasion. We've been able, together with our co-hosts, Spaces for Change, to bridge the knowledge gap in Eastern Southern Africa, in Western Africa, Central Africa, and East Africa. We've done strategic research that has informed policy papers and policy direction on the continent, and we are continuing to do this work. It's not an easy task. Why did we choose Botswana? Botswana as a country has demonstrated to be a democracy, one of the lead democracies in Africa. Can't we clap for this? And this was attested when we first came here for a scooping mission. We met in one of the hotels with the Chief Justice, allow me to declare this, with my team from the Civic Advisory Hub. And when Comrade Tyrone introduced the Chief Justice, I said, but I don't see the escorts. The Chief Justice told me, enjoy the democracy. This is what a democracy means. In a democracy, the people protect their leaders. And I was reflecting in several countries in this continent. When the Chief Justice is present, you might think the country is at war. So congratulations to Botswana. The other aspect why we are here as Botswana, Botswana has demonstrated a risk-based approach according to the civil society and a right-based approach in implementing the Financial Action Task Force standard related to the civil society. That is Recommendation 8. We should clap for them. I know I might not constitute the assessment committee, but I think you would follow Nigeria to be fully compliant when it comes to Recommendation 8. Key to it again, Mr. President, we know you as a friend of the sector. We know you as a member of our advocacy team. And we are here to ask one thing, Mr. President, that the spaces you are in where we are not, there are whispers you can make where we are not. And we ask one thing, Mr. President, to be our civic space ambassador. The civic space is shrinking. We need to reclaim it in other spaces. We need to defend it, but key to it, we are joining the struggle with all industry experts in anti-money laundering and counterterrorism regime to fight these vices. Colleagues, like the Honorable Minister stated, we are here to share experience, but we should move beyond rhetorics to action. We should all be ambassadors of safeguarding civic space. We should be ambassadors of fighting money laundering, terrorism financing, and illicit financial flows. Are we ready to do that? Are we ready to do that? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless. We are more than humbled. Allow me invite, with your permission, my co-organizer, Civic Spaces for Change from Nigeria, Miss Victoria Oeri, to say a word. Thank you.
Mr. President, the honorable ministers, I beg for your permission to continue to stand on the protocols that have been established by the Master of Ceremonies. My name is Victoria Ibezim Oheri. I'm the Executive Director of Spaces for Change, West Africa. We are headquartered in Nigeria, but we work across West Africa, and we're very delighted to be co-hosting the second edition of the Africa Civil Society, the high-level civil society MLCFT conference, but here in Botswana. Thank you for the warm welcome right from the airport to the city of Botswana. I would just want to add a few things because Yona has already stated why we chose Botswana and some of the reasons why this conversation is very important to us as civil society. Just to add one more point, I stated at the opening ceremony of the first edition in Kampala last year, I talked about my role as an executive director of a non-profit organization. Being a non-profit, people expect me to be engaged in social, charitable activities. But when I look at my role as an executive director, I see significant shifts in the kind of activities and responsibilities that I take on a daily basis. I think that the reality today for us is far more complex. The daily operations now involve things like compliance, reporting, and annual filing of annual and tax returns, registrations, licensing, certifications, sanction screening, and many things, sometimes reporting to several regulators, mostly under intense scrutiny. These administrative burdens, those necessary for ensuring financial integrity, but they have mostly nothing to do with humanitarian work or charitable operations, which we have been set up to do. So most of the time, smaller organizations, for many small organizations, these requirements can be very overwhelming and costly for them, and in most cases, making it difficult for them to continue to operate. And it also detracts them from their core work of charitable activities. So this conference proceeds upon the premise that the CSOs, civil society, non-profit organizations in Africa, we desire to continue to carry out our vital work, but with minimal or no disruptions at all, while understanding that authorities also have a responsibility to monitor our activities. So I would like to share a comment with you that the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the right to freedom of expression and assembly, she dropped it on my LinkedIn post 2 days ago. And when I opened it, the opening statement said, by the end of June 2025, thousands of civil society organizations had been forced to shut down worldwide. Many others are now vanishing, shrinking dramatically, or facing profound challenges that are pushing them into transformation, often without capacity to stay true to the paths envisioned by their members or to fulfill their missions. This is from the Special Rapporteur. This is the impact of the ways disproportionate burdens arising from the implementation of AML-CFT requirement. So why are we here? And the reason is to demonstrate that the civil society is actually an ally of the government in the fight against money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. And the number of people here today attests to the growing cooperation between civil society and the government. And the message for us is that states should not unduly restrict civil society organizations, but make it easier for us to continue to do the good works that we have set out to do. And also, by not imposing undue legal restrictions, we may lead over compliance, over regulation, and financial exclusion. I would like to conclude by thanking our partners and the government for welcoming us to Botswana. I would like to thank our partners, our donors. There are so many of them in the room who have started this journey with us and who are continuing this journey with us. We are also grateful to governments across Africa for listening. The progress we have made across countries, we could not have made that progress if the governments were not listening. Yona just mentioned that Nigeria is compliant on FATF Recommendation 8. It happened because the government of Nigeria was listening to civil society when we were clamoring for reform and shifts in the regulatory landscape. We want to thank governments from all parts of Africa who have been listening to us, who have attended, who are all present here in the room, and as we continue to conversation, to continue to fix the cracks that remain. On that note, I would like to say thank you, Botswana, Dumela.
Thank you once again. Mr. Wanjala, I see what you did there. You saw an opportunity and you seized it and brought in another counterpart to bring forth their remarks. That is quite strategic. Let us give him a round of applause. And of course, we do appreciate the remarks by Ms. Victoria and Mr. Wanjala. They've just echoed the sentiments shared earlier by the Honorable Minister that indeed Botswana is making notable strides in ensuring that we are largely compliant. And as far as Recommendation 8 is concerned, let us give NPOs another round of applause. It's been quite a long morning, hasn't it? Let us take a short 30-second commercial break. Look at the person next to you and give them a smile. Dumela autsorile. By the end of this day, you will be knowing this phrase, and when you get back home, instead of saying bonjour, comment ça va, you'll be saying dumela autsorile. And that is what we want, for you to take a bit of our beautiful Botswana with you wherever you go. Ladies and gentlemen, to convey the perspective of our partners in the global philanthropic and civic engagement community, we now invite Mr. Otto Saki. He is the Global Program Officer for Civic Engagement and Government in the Ford Foundation. Mr. Saki, welcome to the podium.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Botswana, Honorable Advocate DOMA GIDEON BOKO, distinguished delegates, all protocols observed, and good morning once again. We are gathering at a time when the world is facing several deepening economic, political, and social challenges. And indeed, across Africa, too many of our fellow citizens remain excluded from decisions that affect their daily lives and their futures. Yesterday, during the master classes held at the opening of this conference, we had many striking examples of exclusion, including how women are often left out of frameworks on countering the financing of terrorism, and how women continue to be portrayed only as victims of terrorism and its financing. Yet we know that women have much more to offer as leaders, innovators, and peace builders whose voices and experiences are essential to effective policy making and implementation. We further heard about how blanket de-risking policies have disconnected legitimate non-profit actors from the financial systems they depend on, thereby undermining their ability to deliver services and support communities. These measures, while often well-intentioned, have weakened both our development efforts and our shared human security objectives. These examples, among other realities, Your Excellency, compels us to confront an undeniable truth that exclusion erodes trust, weakens resilience, and ultimately undermines collective security. Your Excellency, distinguished delegates, our task is therefore very clear. We must ensure that civic space is not only protected, but that it informs, shapes, and drives policy processes and decision-making. As the Ford Foundation and our peers, such as the Mott Foundation, we are humbled to be in partnership in supporting the efforts by civil society groups that create and sustain these African spaces discussing global issues. Your Excellency, we sincerely believe that Africa, African governments, African organizations, and African civil society must lead in shaping these critical discourses. The Civic Advisory Hub, for instance, is making significant progress through initiatives such as protecting your charities from money laundering and terrorism financing, which spans from East to Southern Africa. And similarly, Spaces for Change has led critical efforts to strengthen civic participation in West Africa. These organizations, Your Excellency, remind us that when we partner with and empower local actors, we build stronger and trusted national systems that protect everyone and propel our continent and the world towards a more stable, equitable, and just global order. When civic space thrives, accountability strengthens. When citizens are heard, resilience grows. And when inclusion leads the way, efforts to combat money laundering and terrorism financing will achieve greater and sustainable impact. With these remarks, Your Excellency, we celebrate your leadership and that of the Botswana people in creating and sustaining a healthy, vibrant civic space and providing an example and a moral force of influence at a time when fundamental rights and freedoms are under assault. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The time we've been waiting for has arrived, but before that I want to whet your appetite a little bit. When I was a student at Swaneng Secondary School, which is about 100 kilometers from another school called Madiba, we heard of a student there who was a fierce debater. They had visited our school, and on Monday morning as a day scholar, the school was buzzing about this student, that he was also a narrator in a play called Shaka Zulu. Everybody was talking about this student, and we used to compete with each other on who can outsmart him in memorizing large chunks of literature. That student finished at Madiba and left without me having seen him. I just heard about him. But we were terrified about him because he was a fierce debater, like I said. Fast forward to 1991, August, I was a student at the University of Botswana. And this student was there. There was an event to celebrate the Libyan revolution. The English spoken there was terrifying for some of us rural boys. It was the first time I heard the word narcissist. I heard it from that student. And because I was not satisfied with that good English, one of my lawyer friends, who is a judge now, Godfrey Radijeng, invited me to a moot court. As an economics student, I didn't know what it was, but I went all the same. And that student was there, was part of those who were participating. And the English was very good also. The word I remember I heard there was Clapham omnibus. I never heard that English in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, that student is now the President of the Republic of Botswana. So I'm saying this, like I said, to whet your appetite. Expect good presentation. Expect good delivery. Mr. President, this is your time, your moment. You are welcome to the podium, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Please be seated and accept my apologies for making you stand. Let me acknowledge with respect the head of the judiciary of this republic, Justice Ketlogetso, the Chief Justice of Botswana. He is the head of our judiciary, a judiciary that has commanded respect across not just the African continent, but the world, for its adherence to the rule of law, its defense of human rights, and anchoring this republic. We are much in your debt, Your Lordship. Thank you very much for being with us here this morning. The other arm of government that is represented here is the executive. The executive, which wields both the purse and the sword. It avails resources to finance the operations and activities of government and society. It has at its helm the President. There also are ministers here to whom you have the habit of referring as honorables. Honorable ministers. And I've always wondered to myself why we call people honorable. Are we saying they already are honorable and so we are recognizing certain attributes in them? And if we are to recognize these attributes, they must therefore have displayed these attributes, so that the reference to them as honorable is not just justified, but deserved. So that we don't find ourselves falling into the folly of the era of romantic poetry, where we just ascribed attributes without regard to the plane of reality in which these attributes are supposed to manifest. But I also told myself, we call them honorable because we wish for them the status of being honorable. So we give it to them in advance because we expect them to live up to it. We ascribe it to them as a standard to which they must not only aspire, but a standard they must attain. And so it becomes acceptable then, if we look at it that way, to refer to our ministers as honorable, so that we express our wish for them, that they be honorable. I thank them for being here. I thank our host, the Minister of Labor and Home Affairs. I thank his colleagues, other ministers who are here, and the different sectors of the public service. We thank you for the work that you do, for the support that you give, not just to the government, but to society. Let me thank our guests who are the key players in what we've gathered here for. All of them, as they have been indicated. We appreciate your being here. We appreciate the enormous challenge that you have in your hands and the admirable work that you do for society. We thank all our partners. We thank civil society representatives who are here with us. I've always argued that the headquarters of civil society is the labor movement. I don't know whether the labor movement is represented here today. I doubt. But we must always bring on board the labor movement. Our civil society, especially in Botswana, is weak, challenged in terms of resources, in terms of the availability of activists. And so the most organized section of civil society tends to be the labor movement, because they have the resources from the subscriptions of their members. I remember when I was chairperson of the Bonella board, and the subscription was just 20 pula. We never had more than 30 or so people paid up in terms of their subscriptions. But in the labor movement, all the members subscribe every month. And so in terms of resources, the labor movement is better placed, more resourced, better organized, and therefore able to be the anchor of civil society. We must always try and bring them on board. We must bring them on board because they also represent certain obvious vulnerabilities. And if time permits, I'll speak to some of these on the trot. But this was just to recognize civil society, all of you. The media as well, thank you very much for being here with us. Business people, members of the banking community, intelligence organizations who are here as well, we thank you. We are gathered here around issues of money laundering, illicit financial flows, and the financing of terrorism, countering the financing of terrorism. I think I'd like to bring the discourse down to brass tacks and try and humanize it. Why do we have this big challenge of money laundering? What money is this that is being laundered? Where does it come from? Because we're trying to establish the channels through which it moves and flows. What is its source and origin? Where does it come from? Why do we have the problem at all? We have this problem because people have, at least some of them at any rate, this ingrained weakness or propensity to seek to enrich themselves, to amass often obscene levels of wealth. And when they do, those of them who hold public office turn the public purse into their own private chest of resources. They steal public resources or resources entrusted to them, appropriate these for their own personal benefit. This is the real problem. These funds, these resources, this wealth is illegally obtained, stolen, obtained corruptly. And then it is channeled so that it is concealed. It is placed beyond the reach of crime intelligence, all these intelligence organizations and beyond detection by society. At its simplest, this is what we are wrestling with. The channeling of the resources takes many forms. People buy property, they move it through drug trafficking, and try and hide it. Who are these people that do this? They are not an alien species that has just invaded planet Earth. They are us. They live amongst us. They operate in our societies, in communities. They are found even in these civil society organizations. The civil society organizations, government, companies are not immune from these activities. So these criminal enterprises can and do thrive even in the organizations established to combat the very scourge of money laundering. And so sometimes you have the launderers giving us sentimental platitudes about money laundering because they have not yet been detected as launderers. This is the reality, and we must face up to this reality. We must, because as the poet William Butler Yeats says, it takes more courage to shine the spotlight on yourself, to plumb the depths of your own vulnerability, to examine the cracks and crevices of your own self, your own soul. It takes more courage to do that than it does for a soldier to fight on the battlefront. And so we must shine the spotlight on ourselves. I hope this is partly why we are here. Not to face the inquiry away from ourselves to our exclusion. We must be involved. We must probe our own ingrained frailties, some of them institutional, taken for granted. We must examine these so that whatever solutions we come up with from here are solutions that can work and solutions that do not amount to denial. We must avoid any denialism. And I'm afraid I always avoid sanitized lines of thought. I always avoid official speak because I'm a seeker after truth. And we've got to face the truth about our circumstances and ask the difficult and uncomfortable questions. Because if we get accustomed ourselves to asking these questions about ourselves, we will have absolutely no difficulty when others ask these questions about us. So when civil society probes leaders, politicians, who themselves have already submitted to self-examination and have prepared a critical inventory of themselves, they will embrace the probing of civil society. They will not brutalize civil society for probing them, because they have submitted to this rigorous examination. We are here to do exactly that. That is why we submit as a country to the evaluations that take place from time to time, and one will take place in 2027, that will determine whether Botswana is really, truly, fully compliant. We've made impressive strides, but we are not there yet. And sometimes when we celebrate the little successes that we have attained, we might become complacent. And let me remind the minister and government, we are not there yet. We are striving to get there. And getting there is not even the end, because it is in fact more difficult to stay there than to get there. Getting there is the easier part. Staying there is the most difficult part. So we are striving to get there. And once we get there, we will have to double our efforts to remain at the very top. And so we are here to remind ourselves of the onerous obligations that we bear, all of us. Society, which we tend to homogenize, is actually variegated. It breaks down broadly, crudely, into three segments now. We have a materialized, highly materialized upper class. Then we have a vulgarized middle class and a brutalized lower class. These are elementary truths about our society. And so some of us, even activists at the forefront of the fight against corruption, money laundering, belong to that materialized upper class. Sometimes we bring our activism to mask and conceal the real motive, which is to amass wealth and continue to belong to that materialized upper class. We need to confront these realities about ourselves. Doesn't matter who you are. Even judges fall prey. We must be honest about these issues. The better then for us to fashion effective solutions. One of the critical metrics of assessment that we will face in 2027, because the others we clear very easily. Do you have a legislative framework that responds, that anticipates, that addresses the challenges of money laundering and illicit financial flows, potential financing of terrorism? Yes, we do. In fact, we may actually have arguably the best legislation as a country. In instances, better than some of the more advanced economies. But where's the rub? And this is what will determine our success in 2027. Are these provisions effective? The question of effectiveness. And effectiveness now becomes a function of proper mechanisms for detection. It will involve a capacitation of the intelligence agencies to be able to pick up the signs and signals. The legal system must also be swift and efficient without abusing or violating people's rights. We need to have effective institutions to administer the law. And the Chief Justice has set in motion an arrangement in terms of which, first, he's establishing now specialized, dedicated criminal courts with judges who will deal only with criminal cases. So all these cases of corruption, of money laundering, will now receive the pride of immediate attention, swift disposal, so that those who deserve to receive their just deserts do so speedily. These are interventions that are underway in Botswana, and that should place us in good standing to be fully compliant. Money laundering is and I always try and advise those who might want to stray, advise them in the following manner. Ordinarily, in the criminal justice space, we cannot punish you twice for the same offense. In money laundering, if you take 1 million pula and you go to a car dealership and you buy a car, and you are caught, what the law will do, it will seize the car that you bought. But it will not end there. It will go to the car dealership and seize that 1 million pula with which you bought the car. Because the principle of double jeopardy, otherwise extant in the criminal law, does not apply in relation to cases of money laundering. This is what it is. These are enhanced mechanisms of controlling the scourge. But we still have people sit, plan, calculate, and go ahead and do this. And so the issue of effectiveness is not just to tick the box when a SAMLAC comes and say we are compliant with FATF standards. It is to safeguard the very interests of the country and its people, that we sufficiently deter, especially the mighty and powerful, who not only engage in these criminal enterprises but also subvert the course of justice. And this is the second aspect. These individuals and or cartels that steal, obtain wealth illegally are very astute. They protect themselves. They capture right from the constable in the police station all all the way to the minister, sometimes even the president. And you end up with a situation where democracy is itself imperiled, subverted, because these predatory organized interests then rule, and not the people. They can actually influence what happens in society. They can influence what judgments courts render. And so in Angola, when I spoke with the authorities there about these very same issues, they said they had to take a slightly different approach, where they sat with the criminals and negotiated, said to the criminal, "You've stolen 1 billion. We have established $1 billion. Can we come to an agreement where you return to the country 800 million? Then you'll remain with 200 million. They've had to come to that point. Why? Because they were saying, this criminal who has 1 billion will go to the police, the investigating officers, the prosecutors, all the way to the judge, and bribe all of them. And say to the judge, "Judge, I have $1 billion, which I've stolen. I don't want to lie to you, but I can give you 400 million from that." And the judge says, 400 million US dollars. Even if I was given 10 lifetimes, I would not be able to make this. The judge goes with it. And the case goes through the processes, however slowly or however quickly, gets to the decisive moment, and this criminal is acquitted. And it's final. What can you do? And the country has lost everything. So they say the compromise imposed on them by these realities and circumstances has been to negotiate with these criminals. This makes you realize how serious and how devastating the consequences of this scourge are. They can render countries ungovernable, unstable, and they impoverish whole communities. And these are the real flesh and blood issues you are called upon to address at this gathering. And so you realize, I hope, that the task is enormous. It is daunting. You face a very difficult and precipitous situation. But we continue to do the best we can. And sometimes the investigation of these crimes is also very complex. In certain instances, it takes years just to follow the trails, observing. And in that period, society is up in arms. They think you're not doing anything. They think you are complicit. They don't realize, and you can't give them the details of the very intricate investigations that have to be carried out. This is the part of the challenge. And so police officers, intelligence operatives, face this criticism. The other part is that the police officers themselves, once they are deployed in the front lines, they get exposed to the obscene amounts of wealth that are available. They get co-opted and enlisted in the service of these criminal enterprises. So you get sabotaged from within law enforcement itself. The examples from across the border in South Africa, what we are hearing now, are staggering, they are scary. And we sit here and we give poetic ornaments about how good we are. We're also vulnerable. In fact, we may also actually already be victims. Maybe we don't know it yet. That's why it is important to probe ourselves, to subject ourselves to the most rigorous and painful examination as a country, as government entities, as enterprises in this country, as civil society organizations as well, so that we don't find ourselves enlisted in the service of crime, money laundering, and the financing of organized crime. Because once we talk about terrorism in a country like Botswana, it seems so distant. The ordinary person doesn't immediately relate. They think you're talking about what? Boko Haram? That's a Nigerian issue. What are you talking about in Botswana? They don't relate. Organized crime is a reality. Trafficking, sometimes in humans, in children. Making money illegally. This is what we face. And so we are here today to bring together our multiple voices and perspectives to engage in a conversation that sometimes doesn't reach finality. It need not reach finality, but it's an ongoing conversation which we cannot transcribe in monologic form. So we are going to engage, I hope, in the next 2 days in a polyphonic conversation, multiple voices and viewpoints to try and find solutions, practical, workable solutions to these difficult challenges and situations. And I can only wish you well. I have no illusions about the seriousness of the task that brings you here today. But I also have full faith and confidence in your abilities to wrestle with these challenges and to offer to society workable, effective solutions that will enable the minister at the next assessment in 2027 to make the cut and to maintain the high standards that we would have achieved. And so it remains for me to thank you all for coming here and anticipate the conversations, the engagements that you will have, that will help Botswana advance, that will help our region address these problems and help Africa deal with these persistent economic challenges to transform the lives and livelihoods of our people. Thank you very, very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for those impactful words. We appreciate the conversations that you have initiated. As you said, multiple voices and varied views will continue in this place even after the conference. We appreciate your presence, sir. I didn't lie, Hagar. I didn't lie. Thank you, sir, for that time you had to share your thoughts. Also, I want to say that the President wishes us well. Didn't you hear that? Okay, we are getting close to the end of our program. At this time, I want to invite Ms. Valerie Molatedi, who is the chairperson of the Institute for Combating Illicit Financial Flows. It's an institute that is housed at the University of Botswana, which is Botswana's efforts to fight these evils that we are talking about in this conference. Mama Molatedi, you are welcome.
Directors of ceremony, please kindly allow me to stand on the protocol that has already been established. Allow me to greet the President of the Republic of Botswana, Advocate DOMA GIDEON BOKO, the Chief Justice, all dignitaries here present, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege for us as the Institute for Combating Illicit Financial Flows in Botswana to have been given an opportunity to deliver a vote of thanks on this momentous occasion of this 3-day insightful and productive regional AML-CFT workshop. First and foremost, our sincere gratitude goes out to you, our keynote speaker, Mr. President, for having had time within your very busy schedule to come and officiate at this workshop. It just shows the seriousness that our government takes this issue of AML-CFT with. Your address, Mr. President, did not only set the tone for the ensuing discourse on AML-CFT, but also served as a crucial reminder of the high stakes involved in our shared mission to safeguard the integrity of the global financial system. We will indeed shine the spotlight on ourselves. Many thanks go to our partners and sponsors. Your belief in our mission of empowering NPOs in our region and your generous support have been instrumental in making this event accessible and successful. Your commitment to this cause is a powerful testament of the collaborative spirit needed to fight financial crimes, including AML-CFT in the NPO space. We are profoundly indebted to our distinguished speakers and facilitators, who, in my view, are the pillars of the workshop. Thank you for generously sharing your invaluable expertise, cutting-edge insights, and real-world experiences. You have not only illuminated the complex landscape of AML-CFT with particular focus on the NPO sector, but also shared practical tools and strategies with which program participants can take back home. The depth of knowledge in this room today is truly remarkable. Directors of ceremony, a gathering of this nature does not happen by chance. It is a result of meticulous planning and timeless efforts. I therefore wish to extend a heartfelt thank you to the organizing committee who worked tirelessly behind the scenes for weeks on end, managing each detail with professionalism and dedication. Your hard work has resulted in the seamless execution of this workshop, and for that we are immensely grateful. I'd also like to thank our workshop participants. You are the real reason we are gathered here today. Thank you for your active engagement, participation, thoughtful questions that you have posed so far, and the passion you've brought to this workshop. Even though you still have a day to complete this program, we believe that it will still continue to be successful, and we have also taken into consideration the powerful message that the President has shared with us. As I conclude, I urge all of you not to see the end of this workshop as an end, but as now the beginning in combating AML, CFT in the NPO space in our region as we move towards the Africa that we want. Let also the friendships and connections made here during this workshop flourish into strong collaborative networks. Let the knowledge gained here be translated into action, making our financial systems more resilient and less hospitable to those who seek to abuse them. And most importantly, let us remember to shine the spotlight on ourselves, as Mr. President has said. Finally, please make sure that you don't just concentrate on doing the work. Have some fun, enjoy what our country has to offer, because if we just concentrate on working, we will become dull. I thank you. Ke a leboga.
Thank you, Mama Latedi. The UB Institute is one of the sponsors of this conference. We appreciate the funds that you contributed to the success of this critical event. Thank you very much. We can give you a round of applause. We are coming to the last item, which is group photo. Humbly, Mr. President, I want to invite you back to the stage. Let's appreciate him as he comes. He'll be joined by the Minister of Labor and Home Affairs and Mr. Yona. Others will come after them. We'll be calling you one by one. After they've taken their picture, ministers here present and Chief Justice will join them. You can join them. You can join the President of the Republic of Botswana. As our national anthem says, this land, this happy land. I quote those lyrics. The national, we are a happy land. This land. Kopela ba tsamaisa tiro ba ka itshukunyetsa ha morago.
Joining them in the photo, we also wish to invite Mr. Otto Saki, Mamo Mohapi, Very Limolatedi, Victoria, oh, Victoria is already there, James Savage, Mr. Otto Saki of the Ford Foundation will be joining them, James Savage, Falco of the Human Security.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. May these beautiful pictures be a reminder that this is just the beginning. Mr. President has said it. We are just getting started. This is just the very beginning.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of our program. We'll allow the president to leave. He will be guided by protocol where to go, and thereafter we'll break for tea. As the president leaves, we are going to rise on our feet to give him that honor that he deserves. Thank you, Mr. President, for your time.
Thank you once again. Indeed, we have come to the end of our program. May we give ourselves a round of applause for being present here today, and tell the person next to you, this is just the beginning. Go back to your place of work and get started. May we enjoy our tea, mingle, and interact. Good day.
Thank you.
And oh, it has been an absolute pleasure from me, Kutlo Modise, and
Tshwara ka no mmereki.
thank you and good day.